Thank you, Madam President. Today I rise as a Spartan, a heartbroken and angry Spartan. Like many of you, I watched in disbelief as events unfolded around East Lansing, surrounding areas, and even nationally. I'm heartbroken because Michigan State University is a place I loved. I am angry because they failed to protect the lives of innocent girls and young women. A good friend of mine, who is an attorney, told me that he approaches each legal case with 3 words in mind: truth, justice, and change. What is the truth? How do we achieve justice? And how can we change the circumstances so it never happens again? Let's start with truth. Truth can be ugly. The truth is hundreds of girls and young women, some as young as 6, were sexually assaulted, molested, some even raped by a well-renowned physician. The truth is that it is likely that even more were assaulted. Facts tell us that most women never share that they have been sexually assaulted. Truth hits us personally where we are most vulnerable. The truth is that Kyle Stevens' dad killed himself when he learned his daughter had been sexually assaulted. You see, when Kyle originally told him when she was being assaulted, Larry Nassar convinced him that she was lying. The truth is Chelsea Markham killed herself at the age of 23. The truth is that many of the victims continue to suffer and have difficulty trusting men, even their husbands. They struggle with intimacy, depression, panic, doubt, guilt, fear. Let's add the physical pain some endure from the injuries that were never treated. These are the images of their truth. The truth is that girls and young women were sexually assaulted for nearly 20 years. The truth is their pleas for help were ignored by at least 14 people, including coaches at Michigan State University. The truth is at least one coach threatened the girls and young women if they tried to tell their truth to anyone else. The truth is that something this big is a culture problem. A culture problem at Michigan State University, USA Gymnastics, and gyms across this country. The truth is that the victims have forever been changed. The truth is they still feel ignored. But let's move to justice. What is justice? Justice can come in many forms. Some will say justice was handed down this week when Larry Nassar was given an effective life sentence. But do not think justice is done. Justice is blind to how good a person may have lived their life before this or outside of this. Justice does not discriminate. Justice is accountability, and the victims still need more justice. Justice can come in the way of criminal prosecution, civil lawsuits, investigations. Partial justice has been achieved through the top leadership at USA Gymnastics stepping down after 4 of the Fierce 5 Olympic gymnasts disclosed they too had been abused and ignored. For years, a blind eye was the norm, a norm that allowed girls to be assaulted internationally. It was more important to have Olympic gold and a sterling reputation than to acknowledge the truth. It is my hope that more justice will be served after the investigations of Michigan State University by the Attorney General and the NCAA. Change. There are many people across the country who must change, us included. If we think the job is done after a sentence is handed down, we will be allowing young people and children to be harmed in the future. We play an important role in change. Many of you are working with me on legislation to improve our laws to protect young people. All of you have pledged your support. Thank you for being an agent of positive change. As Sterling Reithman said, we now have to use our experiences and our voices to protect the little girls of tomorrow from watching their heroes turn into predators. But there is more change needed nationally and here in Michigan. To the Board of Trustees at Michigan State University, we need you to lead the change. No more defensive statements. I don't know of anyone who believes you knew about this, but they are upset with the impression that you believe this was limited to one person. If we go back to truth, at least 14 people knew something had happened. Multiple coaches across at least 5 sports stayed silent. One coach intimidated the victims. To get Michigan State University back to its standing of respect, we need to see actions. The people who knew and stayed silent to be held accountable. We need the culture at Michigan State University to be changed. Parents do not believe their children are safe there. Culture change starts at the top with the truth being acknowledged and not diminished. Culture change will embrace transparency. It will now not allow mandated reporters to decide what girls were telling the truth or if they were telling the truth. It does not let university staff call the victims gold diggers. Change recognizes that these girls and young women were forever changed, and no amount of money will ever restore their innocence. You are leaders, and I am begging you to lead. Finally, I'd like to share portions of Rachel Denhollander's victim impact statement, although I have deleted the names of some of the accused and not convicted in respect to Senate rules. Rachel is a longtime friend of mine. I've known her family for quite a few years. These are just some of Rachel's words. I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that when we're embroiled in a legal dispute, the words of our legal system, designed to categorize and classify and instruct, can inadvertently sterilize the harsh realities of what has taken place. They can serve as a shield against the horror of what we are really discussing. And this must not ever happen. What Larry has done must be realized to its fullest depth if justice is to ever be served. And so for a moment, Your Honor, I, like every woman who's come before you, want to take a moment to drop that shield. Larry meticulously groomed me for the purpose of exploiting me for his sexual gain. He penetrated me, he groped me, he fondled me, and then he whispered questions about how it felt. He engaged in degrading and humiliating sex acts without my consent or permission, and Larry enjoyed it. Larry sought out and took pleasure in little girls and women being sexually injured and violated because he liked it. Larry found sexual satisfaction in our suffering. Larry was sexually aroused by our humiliation and our pain. He asked us how it felt because he wanted to know. I think of the young girl that I was and the little girls and young women all these survivors were every day. I was barely 15 when Larry began to abuse me, and as I lay on the table each time and try to reconcile what was happening with the man that Larry was held out to be, there were three things I was very sure of. First, it was clear to me that this was something Larry did regularly. Second, because this was something Larry did regularly, it was impossible that at least some women and girls had not described what was going on to officials at MSU and USAG. I was confident of this. And third, I was confident that because people at MSU and USAG had to be aware of what Larry was doing and had not stopped him, there could surely be no question about the legitimacy of his treatment. This must be medical treatment. The problem must be me. And so I lay still, and on the first 2 points, I was right. It was something he did often, and others had described Larry's treatment before. In fact, though I didn't know it at the time, 4 girls and women had described in detail to 3 different athletic departments at MSU what he was doing and his penetration, and their belief that they had been sexually assaulted. But I was wrong in my third belief. I was wrong that surely if someone had been made aware of what Larry was doing, they would report it and ensure it was legitimate before ever allowing him near another child. I did not know that when I was 15 in 1997, 3 years before I walked into Larry's exam room, that MSU's head gymnastics coach had waived a report form in front of Larissa Boyce after being told by 2 separate gymnasts of what Larry was doing, and told Larissa there would be consequences for her if she reported. I did not know that Tiffany Thomas Lopez had reported the penetration and sexual assault to her athletic trainer and to other athletic trainers and supervisors 2 years before I walked into Larry's door. I did not know that Christy Ackenbeck had reported the penetration and sexual assault to her track coach and athletic trainers and had also been silenced a full year before I walked into Larry's door. I did not know that Jennifer Bedford had also reported to the same athletic trainer and had asked if she could file a report that Larry's treatment made her feel uncomfortable and that she had also been silent. My friends, this is why we must be agents in change. As I close, I'm reminded of the courage, strength, grace, and resilience of these girls and young women. I personally want to thank Rachel and Sterling, who came to the Capitol and shared their story with some of us. For those who around the country who think this is overblown, who have more care about possible NCAA sanctions than the victims that were hurt, heed the words of Kyle Stevens. Little girls don't stay little forever. They grow into strong women that destroy your world. I ask my remarks be printed in the Journal.
Without objection, Senator O'Brien's remarks will be printed in the Journal, and I would ask that all senators and staff to rise in a show of solidarity for these courageous young women.